Okay, as we begin, because we're going lighter at the top, you've picked up enough white on your brush, you've laid some down on your palette. Now just to get started, if you will just take that white and literally I want you to go from the top of the oyster all the way down to this side where it almost runs off the page. So I just want you to pick up your brush and I just want you to slide the white around till you get to the first line that you come to. So you just slide the paint around. When you get to that brownish line, the tannish colored line, you can go over it just a little bit. You don't have to worry about painting, in the lines kind of thing. But you can just really do an underpainting of white to cover the canvas and also to get us a place so that we can put the new color on it that we want to actually make. Now, if you will go to the cup again and pick up another scoop and add it right here to the same place. That way, the reason that we're putting it on the palette first is I want you to literally load your brush with the paint on both sides. So literally when you go over to the palette, you can twist your brush around and that way it's loaded on both sides. And we need that for as much paint as we're putting on your canvas. So now go over to the other side and you're going to copycat what you did. You're just going to start at the top of the canvas and no real brush stroke technique needed. You're just going to cover and you're going to get to the middle of the canvas and then you're going to stop. Now, if you're really new to painting and you don't have any ideas about how to put paint on the canvas, I can offer you one fun way that's always effective, and that's just like a crosshatch. So literally you just take your brush and you lay it down and then you go to the other side and you're just crossing paths. It's like you're making an X. So if you haven't had any experience and you feel really uncomfortable at first just putting the paint on the canvas, just make a little X all the way. That way you get a good coat of paint and it's covered. And that way you don't miss any spaces. Now, as soon as you get that on, we are ready to go to the next step, and that is to start really putting the fun colors in. So, what I'd like for you to do is with the brush, with the paint on it. Now, today I'd like you to get in the habit of not washing out your brush until you need to wash it out, and I'll tell you when you need to do that. Most artists begin by washing their brush too much, and if you do, you can't create fun new colors if you do that, okay? So I want you to not worry about washing that brush out. I do want you to go into your burnt sienna, that's the brown color. I want you to put a smidgen, this time, on the corner of your brush. So put the corner in and just pick up a smidgen so you can just see just a little bit on one side. Now, can you take and go in and put the aqua on the other side? So twist your brush around and pick up a little bit of aqua on the other side. So you have about the same amount of color on each side of the brush. Now, just go in and start moving those two colors around, and you're literally just putting the color out so that it comes right off of your brush and right into your canvas. And you can see that each time you move your brush, if you're using that cross technique that I just showed you, literally the first time you swipe, you might get brown, and then the second time you swap, you're going to get a little bit of that aqua color. Now, go down to where the white is that you put on the canvas first, and then stop. And now I want you to go over to the black, and I want you to put a little black on one of the corners. It doesn't matter which one. Now, black sometimes can be a little overpowering, so we're going to make sure that we don't have too much. Could you take that little corner that you just picked up and put it right here in the white like that and mix it so that you have black on both sides? And then I want you to come in and I want you to take the black and I want you to mix it. I want you to use the same brush stroke that you just used, like that you're crossing over your paint. and I want you just to brush in enough of the black so it begins to turn grayish. And continue until you fill in all the spaces with just strokes of gray. Okay, now we're going to repeat. I'd like for you to go in on one side of the brush, pick up burnt sienna, and on the other side, pick the aqua color. So we're repeating the same step we did. Aqua on one side, brown on the other. And don't worry about getting behind, because we repeat the same thing over and over and over throughout the painting. So what I want you to do, I want you to come in and I want you to make strokes of aqua and brown, and this time it's got some of the gray on it, so it will mix in too, and then we'll add a little bit more until you feel like you have enough. I'm just making a few strokes. They're like crosses or X's, just crossing about, so that way I can have some of the brown showing and some of the aqua showing. And now I'm going to go back and get a little bit more of the black, and I'm going to repeat. And now I'm going to mix in some of the black. Just put a little bit on the corner of your brush. Go in. I'm taking just the corner of my brush really to paint with. We've got all that white that's loaded in up underneath that moves the paint easily for us. That underpainting of white really makes it easy for us to come in. And just slide right across and mix those fun colors. And then we have the top part of our background done. And now we're ready to go on to the bottom. And this time we're going to do the same thing, but as we get down to the bottom, remember we're going darker. So because I have that gray on my brush right now, I'm coming on down around the oyster with the gray that's on my brush. Remember, when you run out of paint, you need to go pick up more paint. So I'm going back to my cup. I'm picking up white. I'm going to go back to my cup and I'm picking up a smidgen of black. I'm going to put that on my palette so I can make a grayish color. And then I'm going right into the side of the canvas that I haven't painted yet. And I'm continually taking the gray down until I get almost to where it looks like the oyster is sitting down. So because I have gray on both sides, I'm going to change when I get down to where the oyster has a shadow, and I'm going to start adding brown to the black. So go in, pick up a dot of black again. So now I have black on my brush, and now I'm going to put brown on the other side. So I have black on one side and black on the other. Black on one side, brown on the other. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to start painting all the space up underneath the oyster. So I've got brown on one side, black on the other, and I also have some white in the brush, so that blends. So black and brown. Now if you want a little bit more control and you don't want quite so much streakiness in your picture, you can always do a little bit more blending on your palette to mix them together. Now the whole point of working on a picture like that and knowing that you can get it finished in 2 hours is to know that we need to get your adrenaline moving enough so that you can paint freely and creatively and not worry too much about what you're doing. If you don't think it through too much, you can really be creative. And so don't worry about working fast. Don't worry about not keeping up, because all of it will come together at the end. So just pull the paint in, get the dark up underneath, and then we are ready to move right in on the oyster and get some color going in there. Remember, usually when you paint, you do like an underpainting, so we'll make a ground, literally, for the other colors to sit on. And now you can see all your space in the background is now complete. And if you feel like your paint is not fluid enough, remember, just go over and put your brush in the water, and then when you get ready to take it over to your palette, just mix the water into your paint. If you don't want it to drip on your canvas, all you have to do is take the water over and mix it with the paint on your palette, and then it will flow, and then you can spread it. Right now, you should have all of the space painted in your background so that we can move to the oyster itself. Now, what I would like for you to be able to do in this space is to actually think about the oyster in two different places, the inside and the outside. The round part of the oyster that's in this middle section is concave, and that's where most of the white color goes. And then as we look around the edges, the color that you just used for the brown is going to go around the outside part. So if you will take your brush, we're going to change colors just a little bit. All I need you to do is take your brush and wipe some of this extra paint off that you don't need. And literally I want you to go in and I want you to give yourself a rhythm of a flow that goes and curves around. So if you'll look at this, I think you'll get a pretty good idea of what we're trying to accomplish. If you'll go and look at a brown line that you have in this top left-hand corner, you'll see literally we're going down and around, and we're painting a shape that almost looks like a figure 8 that's not quite closed together, or either like a a stringed instrument like a guitar, how it goes in, or like a shape of an hourglass. But you can see I just started and I went around the top because that's where that brown line comes in. It makes like a hook shape, and then it comes around and begins to form that hourglass shape. And I'm just taking that and emphasizing that area so that you can see that there are layers and layers and layers of this oyster. We're going to put a lot of different colors, but this will be light from the inside area and then darker on the outside area. So come on around this way. Now let's go around the right hand side, and literally with the big brush you're just sculpting with streaks. You're just taking your brush, go into that grayish color that you have on the palette, which is black and white with a little brown in it, and I want you to come on around and sculpt so that you can see the last of that shape, which is going to pull that number 8 together all the way around. sort of like a 8 with a hook on the top of it. But now that you have that basic shape, I want you to go in and put black on your brush. We did that with sort of a light brownish gray color. Pick up a little black on the corner of your brush so that it gets a little bit darker. You can lay it down like that and just flatten out your brush a little bit with the black on it so you're not carrying a lump of paint. So then you can go around and literally, if you'll go to the back side of the shell, we're going to sort of copycat the line that you see drawn. So we're just using a big fat brush to begin to make the shape that you want your oyster to have. We're not doing any detailing. This is a very organic, loose shape, and I'm starting at the top and I'm coming around and going around, and this is the black, and I just put a little black on the corner of the brush so I can go around and around. I'm following the brown line that I have, and you notice that line separates the black from the white, and the white is on the outside of the oyster. You can see that by looking at your inspiration piece. So I'm just following around the line that I have that shows where the black is. When I run out of black, I just go pick up more black on the corner of the brush. I flatten it down a little bit so that I can just use it to draw. It's almost like a scallop shape now that just continues all the way around the oyster shape. So I started at the very top and now I'm coming all the way around. Now I'm going back up on that right hand side, and as I do that you can see the oyster begins to divide up over here into 2 places. Right now we're just still going around the edge, but in a minute we'll come in and get another layer started. You'll see a blue line over there, but right now we're just going around the edge and we're coming right back up where we started from. So now we've gone all the way around the oyster.
Now is that pure black?
Just black, but it doesn't look pure black because I've got the brown and the white on my brush. Okay? It's just a dark line. So, in addition to the black now, on the outside, we're going to do a little bit on the inside, looking at that hook shape that made the figure 8 in there in the very beginning. Look right over here in this place, and you'll see where we're going to add more black. And it starts on that right-hand side at the top. You sculpt it around, and this time you can see you lose a little space in here where you don't see a line, and then it picks back up. So this line isn't quite as solid as the one that you did on the outside, but you can see it's dark. A while ago we did it sort of grayish brown, and now we're putting a little bit of black on top of it as it overlaps a little bit. We're putting a little bit more black as we come around. We don't have as much gray on the brush now because we're picking up the black. So as we come in and around that figure 8, I'm just adding a little bit more of an edge to all that gray that I worked with a while ago. Just coming in with the black and almost outlining the grayish brown color that I put in to begin with. We're really just setting up the structure of the oyster. I keep dipping in the black. The black changes because of the amount of white and the gray that I have. But this is black that I just keep adding. This is darker than what we started with. I'm going to come on up and around. And now I'm right back where I started from. I started at the top and I'm right back there again. And then now we're going to go in with a few layers so that we can show that the oyster has layer on top of layer on top of layer with the black. Remember, we're not really detailing too much. We're just setting up a stage for where we want the darkest colors to be against the lighter colors. So if you'll notice, in between these two black lines that we just made on this left-hand side of the oyster, we have more layers. So I'm going to copycat those lines and make sure that we can see them. So I'm accenting, I'm copying that figure 8 shape right here with the black. And once I get that line, it's really curved and shaped around, just like an S that's not quite open. And then you'll see we're going to divide that space up again and put another small S-like shape right in between. So now we've got 4 dark lines over here on this side. Got 4 dark lines. Okay, so now we're going to change the black over to more of a bluish gray. So to do that, if you've got too much black on your brush, just lay it down and wash off some of it. But you want a dark gray, we're just going to go bluer. So now, if you will go over to your blue cup and pick up some blue. So now you have black and you have blue right next to it. And then we're going to add white, and then I'm going to put white in the middle of the blue and the gray and mix those together. I'm not going to over mix. I've made one little figure 8 right in the middle of my white and my blue and my black, just like a figure 8, just to mix it up a little bit. I want to keep all those colors separated. I want to keep them streaky like so that they're fun to paint with and they don't turn muddy. We want to keep them fresh and clean. I want you to take your paintbrush and use the whole width of it, lay it down, and spread it out like that. And look at all those colors come right out. We had black on our brush. We went in, we picked up blue, we laid it right beside it, and then I picked up white and I put it in the middle like a figure 8 and just moved it around just enough so when I lay it down on the brush, look at what I'm getting. See all those different colors? How they just... And you can see if you don't mix the colors too much how you can lay it down and really get the look of all of the colors. So now in that one swoop, I have blue, white, and black. And now I can just use a little bit of pressure and push the colors together until I'm happy with the way they look. And happy with the color means that when I look at it, it looks like the shell of the oyster beginning to grow right out of the paint, the way you put it together. You can see the colors. Okay. Now, with the same brush, go over and pick up a smidgen of the aqua. So, put your brush right in, pick up some of the aqua. Now, lay the aqua right beside the blue that you used a minute ago. So, we have aqua. We're adding it right to the blue. Now, pick up white and mix those so that you make just like an S. You're really just pulling the colors together with one little stroke. So on your brush, you're carrying. Look how many colors now you have once I lay it out like that. See the white and the blue and the aqua? All the colors just lay right down on your canvas when you do that. That way you don't have too many grays. It's a beautiful gray because it has green in it. And it has blue in it. And if you press down, look what happens. That gray comes out. But you don't stay in any one place and grind it together. We're going to start filling in a little bit of the figure 8. So lay your brush down and go fill up the space. It's like that number 3 kind of feel where you go in and come around. You just curve into the white. And as soon as you put the white in, go back over. And all you have to do with a little white on your brush is go right in here and pick up all 3 of those colors, the aqua, the blue, and the gray, and blend right on top. And now you have that space filled in with all the colors. Now, go in, get a little white on your brush, and we're going to go to the left side. We're going to do the same thing with just white on the brush. Lay it down, the white, come around and curve. Come around and curve, make that figure number 3. Now I'm going in and I'm picking up more of the aqua color. I just go right into my palette and pick it up, and if I don't have any in my palette, I just go right over to the paint and I pick up just a little bit of the aqua on the tip of my brush. And now I'm going to start up here right above where I stopped with the white, and I'm going to pick up some of the aqua and move it around, right around. I'm still going circular, picking up aqua and going from here down in a circle, curvy motion. Now I'm picking up some dark blue on the tip of my brush, and I'm going through and I'm adding the dark blue right on top of the aqua. Right on top of the aqua. I just go right in and copycat with dark blue. Now with the blue on your brush, go in on that right hand side, just put a little more aqua paint, a little more dark blue on one side and aqua on the other side. You'll pick up both of those, pick them up on the corner, and then come around right in the center. You can see we've got aqua and blue, and we're making curved lines that set up the ridges and layers. Aqua, keep going down. As soon as you run out of paint, just go right over to your cup and get out more paint. And that aqua, just pick it up one more time, and you've got 2 lines in between the 2 dark lines that you can mix right in. And now we have bluish aqua on the right hand side. Okay, so if you will wash your brush out and get all the gray stuff out so that we can go with a purpley gray next. Okay, so to get our new start, what I want us to do is go in first. We're going to start with white, and don't worry about if your white's not free of blues and greens and violets, okay? It's fine. Just pick it up and get yourself a good scoop that you can lay right on your palette. And especially if you're feeling like that your picture is dark, don't worry about it being too dark at first, because we're going to continue to add white as we go. And the very last thing we're going to do is come in with the white And if you'll notice, don't do this right now, but I'm just gonna show you if you're a little concerned about how it's gonna turn out. We're gonna go in with a small round brush and identify all the edges with white. And we're gonna actually come in the center and we're gonna go in and we're gonna make some white reflective light coming in. So you'll have plenty of white in your picture. But right now, with the white on your brush, will you just go in and literally, we're gonna wet the canvas with the white. Remember how when we started with our background, we just took the white and we wet our canvas and then we laid other colors in it? So that's what we're gonna do now, because this is the lightest part that we're gonna work on. And you can see you've got all kind of fun lines in there that we used with the paint markers to give you some spaces so that you wouldn't feel like that you had too much of a big white space. You can see all of those fun colored lines up underneath there. But on this top half, in this figure 8 section, just coat it with some white paint about halfway down till you get to where the big purple space is going to be painted. So just go in and put white paint, because that's the whitest part of the shell. So now that you have white around here, put a little bit more white, almost like you're making a U shape around the U shape. Remember, we painted the U shape right here when we started our grayish colors earlier. But now we're just going white, white, white. We've got all this filled in with white. It's not a thick white, it's just sort of like a wash. We're just laying it in. Now we're gonna add color. And the color that we're gonna add in here, we're gonna start with a color that we're gonna mix right in to what we had a while ago. Remember, we were using blue. Now we're going to add a dot of that dark red. The dark red is called the alizarin. It's a crimson color. So I went right in and I had the blue on one side of my brush. I'm putting the crimson on the other side. And now I'm pulling white right through it. And see, I'm going to make something that's going to look purpley, okay? So if you'll notice, once you drag your white through, drag it right here and see the new color you have. Just mix it up, see? It's a purpley lavender color. If you don't get that at first, don't worry, you'll get it in a second because we're gonna adjust to it. But watch this. See how I'm gonna take and go over where I painted a while ago and now? See how pretty it looks? I'm just barely touching the canvas with that color. And it's white, but it has blue and it has the alizarin red in it. And it adds just a little bit of color that is like purple, but it hits just enough that it reflects the light that really is going to be beautiful when we put the purple color inside of this space where a lot of the violet color is going to go. So I just picked up just a little bit of it, and I'm just streaking. Move on up here where you put the white while ago, and just streak. Lay the paintbrush, put the brush strokes right into the white, and blend it out just a little bit. So now we've sort of got the purple color running all the way through that figure 8 shape. So we added some on the dry paint, and then we mixed some right into the white wet paint that we just added. Anytime you add a new color that's different than you've used, you certainly have to carry it through the canvas. And now I'm going over here on that figure 8 on the left side, adding a little bit, just a few strokes, barely touching the canvas. Now, with that same color, we're going to do blue and purple, but this time I already had white on my brush, so this time I'm adding blue and red together and mixing a darker purple And this is what my goal is. I want to make a moonlight shape here. It's half of a circle kind of swoop. I want to put a darker purple, and then I want to go in with the alizarin and put a red or color. So now I've got a dark grapey color I picked up, and now I have more red. And I just moved that. I'm using my wrist to make a round. Everything on here needs to be curved. So it's sort of a purpley blue, and then it's a reddish color. And we want to make sure that it's not too strong. So with some of this, and that's why I hate for y'all to throw away your old palettes, because sometimes they're really good to have just a smidgen of color. But take and put black in there with it. So I just went over and got a little bit of the grayish. I had black right beside it, so I picked up just a little bit of black. If you don't, just go over and dip your paint brush in the corner, get the smallest little amount of black that you can put, and drag the black paint right through. And now I'm putting the black color right on top. So now I have a darker, grayer color because I added black to the dark purple. And now take a little bit of the bright red, and you can come in and just hit a little bit of the red color. But if you've got black on your brush, if you put the red on it, see how it makes it blend right into what you have? So it's not too bright. It's a little orangey looking, but it's a little bit of the red, the cadmium red. So now as you look at it, you can see we have this grayish black color. We have purple. We have alizarin crimson. And then we're back to where we started with our blues and greens a while ago. So we have a lot of color. Okay, if you will add white to your brush, so that just pick up white, and in this area in the center, we want this to be a purpley color, but we want it to have mostly white. We don't want it to be dark. So I just took the color that was on my brush, and I added a lot of white to it. Added a lot of white. Add more white. But now you've got that purpley gray. Add white. Now, in addition to the purple, we're going to go and we're going to add blue. So I just dipped in, picked up some blue on my brush, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to carry that blue and white, pick up white, pick up blue. Now we're moving it from side to side. We're moving it from side to side. Really streaky. Side to side. And this time, make sure that your white moves over and fills in so that you don't have any open space on the other side of this purple and red. That's where all the blue is going. Now pick up aqua, and you're going to do the same thing with aqua. You're just going to take and remember that figure 8 that we started with at the beginning. I'm going to take and I'm going to go back over that just a little with a lot of white on my brush so it just mixes right in. So we've got one little space right here in the middle. We want a little bit more of the aqua, and then we want a lot of white. Remember, we keep putting white in here because it's lighter. We want it to be very bold and colorful. This is almost like a whole circle shape in here. It's not quite a circle, but it's pretty close to being a circle. And then that finishes up that center part. So all that is filled in. As you want to, you can just move your brush across. Okay, you've got aqua and some blue on your brush. Can you go in and add yellow ochre? And because you've got yellow last on your brush, you're able to put some of that color in to this top section. We need just a little bit of yellow ochre because we have some of it here on the right hand side. Now we're putting a little bit on the left. You can make the most beautiful gray that you have ever seen if you take the yellow ochre and mix it in with a violet. Can you mix the yellow ochre in with the violet that you have? And that's what we're going to use over here to finish painting that section. It's yellow ochre with violet in it. And if you don't have any violet left, I'll tell you how to do that. Remember, go in and take blue and put the alizarin red in with it. So blue and alizarin red is the deep dark violet. And put a little yellow ochre in with it, and it will make a beautiful, beautiful gray. And then to lighten it up, all you have to do is add white. And you're going to make as many different grays as you can come up with by changing and adding sometimes more violet, sometimes more yellow, ochre, and literally each one of these are just streaks of grays so that you can make layer after layer after layer, adding in white. So the white with the gray is going to be an enhancement to every one of those black lines that we put in there to begin with. So gray after gray after gray, and you're making one streak at a time, one continuous line that goes throughout your space. And now with that violet and white added together with the yellow ochre, I want you to continue that color, put a few strokes of that color around to tie the left side with the right side. And the center, if you need some. just little brush strokes. Violet is blue and red. Add a little bit of white to it if you need to lighten it up. Now, put the big brush away just for a minute, wash it and dry it and put it aside, and get your round brush so that we can make a little smaller white lines to enhance our oyster shell. I want you to take your big round brush, we haven't used it, and I want you to dip it in water, and then I want you to load it with white paint, and I want you to come in and I want you to roll your brush in the white paint so you have a lot of it on your brush, but you still have a point on the brush. So just roll it in the paint. Now, we're going to start. This is so important to making all the edges and the points, the ridges on the oyster shell really show up. So some of you have a few open spaces that aren't painted right around the edge, and those are the ones we're going to hit first. But literally you're making that same swoop around. Everything has got to be rounded, okay? Everything is just lay the brush on it and then pick up more paint. Lay the brush down. Now, don't feel like you're making an outline around it, okay? That's what I want you to avoid. I just want you to hit the corners where it goes in and where it goes out, so that it's scallop-like. Go in, just pick up the brush and let the brush just dance right around the edges. A hit and a miss, not like I'm making an outline around it. Just lay the brush in and let it literally make an edge for you. Now, go back and pick up more white. As you paint over and over, around and around, you have got to continue to load your brush with paint, because it can't paint an edge if you don't have enough paint on the tip of your brush. Load and load and load. If you feel like that your white is getting too white, put a little bit of the gray in it, and then you just keep on painting. But after we get the line all the way around it, we're not through. We've got to do some of those in the center as well, in the middle. But get one that goes all the way around and frames it up for you. Then, the edges, the places that you worked on inside to make the ridges, you're going to do that. These lines aren't going to be as thick, okay? They're not going to be quite as thick. So remember how when we were working with the gray, I said just barely touch your canvas, just lay it down and let the brush just walk, let it just sort of dance right across the top of it. You're going to do that with the white until you hit it enough times that you feel like the oyster is white, and that you can see that white reflected in your shell. But I'm coming in on the edges, on the inside where all these ridges are that we made. We made them yellow and blue and green, and now we're edging them with white. And especially along that very first that very first black line that we put in to make like that figure 8, go right along that edge and put the black on the outside of it. So we've got white right along the outside of that black. And I really think it's important that you try this. It's a little bit scary at first, but if you take and put your white on your brush and then wipe most of it off on the palette, and then take and come in here and just scrape a little bit of the white paint off into your canvas, look what a shiny, fun look that it gives. But you just take and rub it right across all those fun colors that you have. And see how it just becomes very reflective like. Then your painting is complete. It's always fun to experiment and paint. I think that this has plenty of edging now. It has plenty of color. If you see that you like one color more than another and you want to emphasize it a little bit, if you need a little yellow ochre here, if you need more of alizarin crimson here, see how you can use the side of the round brush and just scrub it right across the edge. If you need blue and red to make your violet, watch how you can lay your brush around and make like you're gonna start making a circle, but you don't finish it up. If you want to emphasize that in a darker purple, gray, if you want more violet somewhere. It's just a very colorful painting where you can just enjoy putting so many colors in.